We think
Russia funds?
2011 is going to be another good year for Russia. We think it's going to be very much supported by the good prices for natural resources, which we have at the moment, and in turn is going to also be supported by the valuation of the Russian stock market. We think the Russian stock market has a valuation right now at around 7 PY, which is by coincidence exactly the same valuation it had back in 1999, just after the Russian crisis, and we think Russia deserves a higher rating than that.
Do you think that there's a similar opportunity in Russia for the coming decade as there was in the previous decades?
I think during the previous decade you didn't see a re-rating of Russia at all. So what we saw, we had a very good performance of the stock market based on the strong earnings growth. I think strong earnings growth will continue, but on top of that I think you will see a revaluation or a re-rating of Russia. And I think it deserves to have a rating which is closer to the Brazilian one, which is around 12-13 than the ones they have at the moment.
Why is Russia? Why is the valuations on Russia so low compared to its emerging market peers at the moment?
I think people have focused very much on the risks and not maybe enough on the opportunities. I think there is a much higher perceived risk than real risk. I think there's always risks in investing in emerging markets, and people have very much chosen to focus on that. They think it is political risk and corporate governance risks, and of course that exists in Russia as in other places, but I think it has been a bit exaggerated.
But do you not see the sort of the shareholder disputes and some of the corporate governance issues, as real risks as well as perceived?
They are definitely real risks, but the question if you should discount them as much as you do. Risk is always about taking into account what kind of discount factors you should be using, and I think Russia has been a bit unfairly treated when it comes to risk terms.
What will be the catalyst to drive a re-rating?
I think there's going to be time is really one factor in itself, that we will see Russia behaving well, which I think it does when it comes to corporate governance and economic development, and still a lot of people have in mind the 2008 difficulties with the financial crisis, and as that sort of moves away in time, I think people will start to actually re-rate Russia.
Do you think the higher commodity prices in oil and gas are here to stay? They're well supported?
I think the present levels are well supported, so we're assuming about the same levels going forward as we have at the moment.
For how long?
Well, it's hard to have very long views on this, but I think everyone has the incentive to have an oil price which is in this level, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see this for the next 2 years.
Russia is now very much more dependent on China. Do you see a slowdown in the Chinese economy is likely over the next year?
We don't see a major slowdown in China. We think it's also going to be continuing to grow in decent terms. We have so much big investment programs running in China at the moment that it's going to support the economy in the next few years.
Which sectors and which companies are you increasing which stocks are you buying at the moment?
Historically, we have always had a big tendency to look at everything which has to do with the Russian consumer and the Russian middle class development, and that meant we were very much into consumer goods and retail and banks. We are very much, we do like the banks at the moment. We think it is good from a valuation point of view. We think they're developing the right way. And on top of that story, we have been trimming some of the stocks in consumer goods and retail in favor of natural resource stocks. We do think that the classic oil and gas sector looks very good value at present in Russia.
Which stocks in particular do you like in the oil and gas sector?
Our three largest holdings in that sector is Gazprom, Rosneft and Lukoil, and I think they all have excellent valuations at the moment.
Okay, and out of the banks, who do you like?
Our largest holding overall actually in the Russia fund is Sberbank at the moment, so that's the number one choice for us.
Okay, and in your view, the Russian banks had to deal with some issues that the banks in Europe and the US are dealing with at the moment.
Well, the Russian banks are extremely well capitalized. I think if you look on the Tier 1 ratios for these banks, it's more around 20%. So they have a situation now when they were almost overcapitalized, and they are starting to take down the interest rates, and that is in turn is creating demand for new loans. So I think they have a very interesting position at the moment.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for talking to us this afternoon, Peter.
Thank you. Pleasure.